A woman woke up and suddenly found a very disturbing wound on her thigh. She immediately gasped in shock. Her daughter just stood silently by her side and asked her,
"Are you going to hit me? What are you doing?" "Yeah."
"You should know, this girl is still in kindergarten, but this is far from the first time she has hurt someone." Yingen is a single mother who currently teaches children how to swim at a swimming pool. One day, she received a call saying that their family dog, Lantern, who had been with them for a long time, had died. She rushed home immediately to bury Lantern, feeling extremely sad throughout the whole process. But her daughter, Suxian, was different. She thought that since Lantern had died, they could just get another dog. What was there to be sad about? Hearing this made Yingen feel upset, and she immediately said, "Lantern was also a part of our family."
"A cherished and beloved family member indeed. Lantern was our family too."
Yingen explained that since they lived together in the same house, ate together, and slept together, that made them a family. Suxian didn't respond, and her reaction was nothing like that of an ordinary kindergarten child. At night, Suxian couldn't help but ask her mother, "Where do people go after they die?" Yingen told her that if you do good deeds, you'll go to heaven, but if you do bad things, you'll go to hell.
"Mom, I truly can't go to heaven with you. Can I, my dear mother?"
Clearly this is a mother and daughter with a story, and the reason Yingen divorced her ex-husband was also because of this daughter. Suxian was ill and was undergoing regular psychiatric treatment. Back to the main topic, Yingen's mother always felt that her granddaughter didn't have any real problems. She was just a bit more mischievous than other kids. This put a lot of pressure on Yingen, because as the person who spent the most time with Suxian, she knew very well that her daughter was indeed a little abnormal. That's also why Yingen made her daughter come straight to the swimming pool where she worked after school. She was very afraid that something unexpected might happen. Not long after, Suxian met a little girl named Shihui at the swimming pool. Both of them were a bit afraid of water, and they got along quite well. But the good times didn't last long. Just a few days later, Suxian received a call from the kindergarten, saying that Suxian had organized a terrifying game, which resulted in many children having marks from being pinched and scratched. They said they couldn't keep a student like her, and suggested that Yingen transfer Suxian as soon as possible, and take her home for proper discipline. Yingen was filled with regret, feeling that she had failed to teach her child properly. Yet she was also helpless, because no matter how she tried to guide her, Suxian still lacked even the most basic sense of empathy. All she could do was try to establish rules for Suxian. She told Suxian that if you do something wrong, you must bear the consequences. But this still didn't work. Suxian even started secretly covering Jiwei's mouth and nose, playing a breath-holding game with her.
"If you hold your breath until the count of 3, you'll be able to make a sound."
At a critical moment, Jiwei managed to break free and accidentally injured Suxian's hand. Seeing this, Suxian immediately ran to complain to her mother. However, Yingen knew both of their personalities very well, and simply chose to downplay the incident and let it go.
"Mom, can't you stop acting like this?"
Suxian was very upset. Yingen was also under a lot of pressure, and she even went to church to pray. But unexpectedly, she ran into an old acquaintance there. The other woman's daughter, Sula, is still receiving psychiatric treatment after being tormented by Suxian. Just like that, Yingen got scolded again, and the pressure inside her kept building up. When her ex-husband came to ask why Suxian suddenly changed kindergartens, she immediately exploded, feeling that he had no right to question her about these things.
"How can you be like this?"
Her ex-husband was left speechless. Yingen had no confidence she could guide Suxian back onto the right path. In fact, she was on the verge of being completely overwhelmed by the pressure. But honestly, that still doesn't justify you buying 2 chickens, tossing them to Yingen to deal with, and using that as an excuse for her to vent. Sure enough, as soon as the chicken killing was over, Suxian's deadly questions started up again. Dogs and chickens are both animals, so why is it okay to kill chickens? What's the difference between dogs and chickens? Yingen didn't know how to answer, so she could only coax Suxian to sleep first. Little did she know, an even bigger surprise was waiting for her the next day. Jihui told Yingen that Suxian kept forcing her to play the breath-holding game, and even said that if she didn't do it, she would get the whole class to isolate her. Yingen was stunned by what she heard, but as soon as she came to her senses, she immediately asked Jihui if she had told her dad, mom, or the kindergarten teacher about it. Jihui obediently shook her head, so Yingen made her promise that she must never tell anyone about this in the future, and assured her that she would have a good talk with Suxian to make sure nothing like this would happen again. Jihui agreed, and Yingen finally breathed a sigh of relief. Who would have thought that as soon as they turned around, they would run right into Suxian? Suxian sensed something was off and immediately tried to run away, but in the end, Yingen still caught her and locked her in the storage room.
"So that's why those things ended up here?"
Suxian was extremely upset about this, and kept banging on the door furiously. When Yingen's colleague found out, they immediately helped her open the door. As soon as Suxian came out, she went straight to Jihui, and right in front of Yingen, she pushed Jihui, who's afraid of water, into the pool. Yingen was stunned on the spot, and only managed to revive Jihui with great difficulty. After this incident, she completely broke down. She couldn't understand why Suxian would treat Jihui like that. But Suxian was different. All she wanted to know was whether her mom hated her.
"Why do you hate me? Was it something I did?"
Yingen felt utterly helpless and ended up calling her ex-husband, hoping he could come and help her. But just thinking about Suxian made her ex-husband's scalp tingle. He absolutely refused to come over. So Yingen broke down. At the same time, Suxian suddenly started to run away, trying to get her mother's attention. But this time, Yingen was simply too exhausted and didn't immediately chase after her. Still, she cared deeply about her daughter, and as soon as she came to her senses, she searched the area thoroughly. Fortunately, Suxian hadn't gone missing. She had secretly run off to her grandmother's house. When Ying'an heard the news, she rushed over, only to discover that Suxian had unexpectedly cut her grandmother's hand with a knife. Ying'an couldn't help but get angry, and wanted to give Suxian a good scolding, but Suxian reacted even more intensely, feeling that her mother hated her and wanted to abandon her.
This is exactly what my mom is like right now.
This made Ying'an feel terrible. She tried to comfort Suxian, but ended up getting her hand cut by Suxian with the knife. It was at this moment that Ying'an made a decision. Late at night, she took Suxian to the swimming pool where she worked. Her purpose was simple. Suxian, like Jihui, was afraid of water. She wanted Suxian to experience the fear and anxiety Jihui felt when she fell into the water, believing this would be effective. Suxian immediately empathized with Jihui and promised that she would never do something like that again. But Ying'an could no longer trust her, and actually decided to take her away from this world together. Unfortunately, the wound on Ying'an's hand had never really been treated, and she was now in a state of severe blood loss. As a result, an accident happened. Suxian managed to escape, while Ying'an silently sank to the bottom of the water. In the blink of an eye, 20 years passed, and a young woman named Kim Min made a dazzling entrance. She worked a special kind of cleaning job, and would secretly steal the homeowner's wallet when no one was looking. However, Hairong came to apply for the job, claiming that she had lost her family in a fire when she was a child. Everyone felt very sympathetic toward her, and immediately decided to let her stay. But Jin Min, who was also an orphan, wasn't very fond of her, which made Hairong feel a bit uncomfortable. But Aunt Xianjing, who was standing nearby, told her that Jin Min was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. Although she seemed indifferent to others, she was actually very kind-hearted. Moreover, Jin Min had no memories of her childhood, didn't know her real name, and didn't know why her parents had abandoned her. Hairong said she understood. Meanwhile, Jin Min suddenly received a phone call. She was already 8 weeks pregnant. The doctor advised her that if she didn't want the baby, it would be best to have the procedure as soon as possible. Jin Min seemed lost in thought. Just then, a man and a woman approached her. Jin Min was about to sell the designer wallet she had picked up for some cash, but the woman started questioning her, showing her photos of jewelry on her phone. It turned out that these items had all been custom made for the woman's late grandmother.
You took all of them, and then you just left.
Jin Min took off running and only managed to escape back to the dormitory with great difficulty. At that moment, Hairong and the others were preparing a big meal, because today happened to be Jin Min's birthday, so Jin Min pretended to be calm and quietly celebrated her birthday with them. In that moment, the atmosphere was very relaxed, and Aunt Xianjing even felt like they were a real family. Suddenly, Hairong noticed a photograph. Xianjing explained that it was her daughter, Shuya. As soon as Hairong heard this, she immediately complimented them, saying that mother and daughter looked very much alike. Hearing this made Xianjing both happy and sad, because in reality, Shuya had already passed away long ago. Not long after, the drunken Xianjing fell asleep, while Hairong sat beside her, acting cute in all sorts of ways, saying she was willing to be Xianjing's little daughter. Jin Min was utterly speechless, and couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Hairong really couldn't understand what was so funny about that. However, she also realized that something was off with Jin Min today. Jin Min explained that it was because she didn't like celebrating birthdays, and told Hairong to leave as soon as possible. Hairong couldn't accept this. She really liked being here and had never thought about leaving.
Well, if you want to say something but keep holding back, that's fine.
Forced by the threat, Jin Min had no choice but to coexist peacefully with Hairong. But when her ex-boyfriend came looking for trouble, grabbing her by the neck and choking her, it was Hairong who stepped up and gave the ex-boyfriend a hard slap. However, just as Hairong went over to check on Jin Min, the ex-boyfriend launched a sneak attack, grabbing Hairong and beating her up. Hairong fought back desperately, but she was still no match for her ex-boyfriend. Fortunately, at the critical moment, two kind-hearted passers-by happened to walk by, and they managed to rescue Hairong and Jin Min. But Jin Min still couldn't figure it out. Why would Hairong go this far for her?
Unlike others who turn a blind eye when something bad occurs.
These words touched Jin Min, and in the end, she actually took the initiative to confess her past to Hairong. Actually, she didn't lose her memory. Her mother did. The reason she doesn't want to bring up the past is because, when she was a child, she almost died at her mother's hands. Her mom wanted to die together with her. Hearing this, Hairong's heart softened, but Jin Min didn't think it was a big deal. A few days later, Jin Min's ex-boyfriend received a message from her and rode his motorcycle over to find her. But as soon as he showed up, someone grabbed him from behind and started hitting him hard with a wrench. Of course, that wasn't the main point. The attacker then turned around and cut the brake line on the ex-boyfriend's motorcycle, and he had no idea at all. The scene shifts. While cleaning the room, Jin Min accidentally discovers a bag under Hairong's bed. She can't resist taking a peek inside, and finds not only a sketchbook, but also several cell phones. Suddenly, Jin Min notices that there's a photo hidden inside the case of one of the phones. But before she can get a good look at it, Hairong suddenly comes back. Fortunately, she reacted quickly and immediately put everything back the way it was, so Hairong didn't notice anything unusual. Later, Jin Min found an opportunity to look at the photo and discovered it was a picture of 3 girls taken at the Wish Orphanage. This struck her as a bit odd, since the orphanage is in Incheon, but Hairong had said she grew up in Busan. Jin Min felt that something wasn't quite right. Not long after, she received some terrible news. Her ex-boyfriend died in a motorcycle accident, and she was the last person he contacted before the incident. This left Jin Min completely stunned, and she even started to suspect Hairong. After returning to the dorm, she immediately told Hairong the news. To her shock, Hairong actually thought it was great. Now no one would come to bother Jin Min anymore. Jin Min was dumbfounded, thinking, that was a living, breathing person. but Hairong remained completely indifferent, saying the ex-boyfriend had brought it upon himself. Afterwards, Jinmin contacted the Wish Orphanage to investigate Hairong, but unexpectedly discovered that Hairong had died in a fire 10 years ago. Jinmin was stunned, and finally decided to go to the orphanage herself to look up the relevant records. There, she managed to find information about a girl in the photo named Park Mi-kyung. But the good times didn't last long. After she returned, Hairong noticed something was off. So Jinmin decided to drop the act and directly asked Hairong about her true identity, wanting to know what her real intentions were. Hairong, for her part, was surprisingly bold and admitted outright that she only helped because she overheard Jinmin muttering about wanting to kill her ex-boyfriend. This completely broke Jinmin. But Hairong continued to remind her that she actually had no real connection with the ex-boyfriend. The last person the ex-boyfriend contacted was Jinmin, and the one he threatened to force an abortion was also Jinmin.
Damn, what an absolute jerk. But he truly messed with the wrong woman indeed.
After saying that, Hairong hugged Jinmin tightly, but Jinmin only thought she was crazy. Enraged, Hairong actually attacked her and almost killed her on the spot. But that wasn't even the scariest thing for Jinmin. The next day, while Hairong acted as if nothing had happened, she quietly turned her knife towards Xianjing. Jinmin was terrified, but she still quietly told Xianjing about it. Unfortunately, Xianjing didn't believe her. Hairong happened to witness this act of tattling, so she immediately decided to take revenge, causing both Jinmin and Xianjing to accidentally fall down the stairs. Xianjing was seriously injured, and the doctor suggested she get further examinations. Meanwhile, Jinmin couldn't hold it in any longer. She secretly went to Meijing's house, hoping to learn more about Hairong, but unexpectedly, Meijing started telling her about a girl named Yoonjin. Yoonjin suddenly appeared near the orphanage. It wasn't uncommon for children to enter welfare institutions in this way, so no one really suspected anything. Moreover, not long after Yoonjin arrived, she got along very well with Hairong and Meijing, just like they were three sisters. Until one day, Suxian's grandmother came looking for her granddaughter. The staff immediately recognized that Suxian was actually Yoonjin, and wanted to hand her over right away. But Suxian was unwilling, so she went straight to her two close friends, hoping they would help her hide her whereabouts. The two agreed, but in the end, under the strict questioning of the staff, they still revealed Suxian's hiding place. Suxian was furious, and wanted to run away immediately, but halfway through she was so angry that she sneaked back at night and set a fire in the orphanage. That fire ended up killing Hairong. Because of this, Meijing was left with a deep psychological shadow. Suxian then took the opportunity to assume Hairong's identity, and began wandering from place to place. But in a way, Meijing also found a blessing in disguise. Because of this tragedy, she was actually adopted by Suxian's grandmother. Meanwhile, the team leader also started to suspect Suxian's identity. He discovered that all the contact information and addresses Suxian provided were fake. Suxian explained that it might be because of the poor economic situation. So many factories and shops had gone out of business. But the team leader still didn't believe her, and directly produced a surveillance video, which showed Suxian sneaking into the house where the incident happened, and then the house apparently caught fire. At this point, Suxian didn't bother pretending anymore, and used the pen on the table to take care of the team leader. This also meant she could no longer stay in this place. She decided to go big, and immediately took Xianjing out of the hospital. When Jinmin arrived at the hospital, she found that Xianjing was nowhere to be found, and immediately became extremely worried. She rushed back to the dormitory, but couldn't find any trace of Xianjing. At that moment, Suxian returned, her face covered in blood. Jinmin anxiously asked about Xianjing's whereabouts, but Suxian refused to say anything. With no other choice, Jinmin tried to appeal to Suxian's emotions, saying that Suxian was just sick, and that she would definitely help her find a doctor to cure her. But Suxian didn't believe her at all, and instead opened the bathroom door. Xianjing was lying in a pool of blood. Jinmin broke down on the spot, but Suxian remained unmoved. She even said that it was all Jinmin's fault. Suxian started pouring gasoline in the room, clearly intending to set another fire, fake the scene, and pin everything on Jinmin. Jinmin was furious, and directly called Suxian a lunatic who could even kill her own mother.
With things getting so out of hand, he had no choice but to run. But I was worried about you.
These words really hit Suxian's sore spot. Taking advantage of Suxian's distraction, Jinmin immediately grabbed the screwdriver she had hidden earlier, and started struggling with Suxian. Unfortunately, she was no match for Suxian at all. Afterwards, Suxian picked up a knife, ready to kill Jinmin. Jinmin was powerless to argue back, but she still cursed Suxian, saying she was pitiful and ridiculous, and that she never should have been born into this world. Suxian was furious, but Jinmin suddenly noticed that Xianjing in the bathroom had regained consciousness. So she started hurling insults at Suxian, trying to keep Suxian's attention firmly on her. Meanwhile, Xianjing grabbed a vase and attacked Suxian from behind. Jinmin managed to break free and, supporting the weakened Xianjing, tried to escape the scene as quickly as possible. But Suxian, as if she had some kind of cheat code, instantly recovered and started chasing after them again. But at the critical moment, Suxian accidentally stabbed her knife into the gas stove. Seizing the opportunity, Jinmin immediately turned on the switch, and in an instant, flames engulfed Suxian's body. Unfortunately, the fire did not take Suxian's life. Dragging her battered body, she made her way to the riverbank, only to see her own mother walking toward her from the middle of the river. Suxian was terrified, and immediately promised that she would never do anything like this again. But Ying'an just held her tightly, wanting to take her away together to a world without pain. Suxian couldn't accept it and immediately broke free from Yingen's embrace. She told Yingen that she actually liked pain because people are most honest when they are in pain, and watching them suffer made her feel at ease, as if she were truly alive. So,
But she just said this to her own mother?
and with that, the film comes to an end. The film Invasion is adapted from a webcomic of the same name. It uses a dual narrative structure, but overall, the presentation isn't particularly smooth. The connection between the depiction of childhood events in the first half and the events 20 years later feels somewhat disjointed. Moreover, although the film attempts to explore certain social issues and the deeper contradictions of human nature, both its expression and the portrayal of the story and characters remain rather superficial, lacking any truly in-depth exploration. This is undoubtedly quite regrettable. That being said, the little girl who played the young Soo Hyun gave a really impressive performance. She genuinely gave off a somewhat chilling vibe.